In my job as a general surgeon, I have competency in the abdomen. I know what my limits are. When I'm meeting people for the first time, they oftentimes ask for a story, like what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you, or craziest surgery you've ever done, or the craziest thing you've seen as a surgeon. I find those questions hard to answer. A lot of what a trauma surgeon does on a day-to-day basis would be considered sort of crazy. And the other part of it is that the last thing I really want to do is make light of a patient's suffering. Like, the people who are the center of those stories are the patients. They're the people who've had the injury or suffered an illness or struggled with something. So as a surgeon, I have a hard time sharing those kinds of stories. But I do want to actually share two stories, two specific stories that inspired me to become a surgeon myself. Two stories that were at different stages in my career that really launched me on the path to become a general surgeon and ultimately a trauma surgeon, ultimately right in front of you today on YouTube. So the first story was when I was a medical student. I was doing my general surgery rotation, and I remember thinking how awesome it was. That rotation was so great. I could see the impact we're having on patients. I thought surgeons were amazing people. I really had this incredible view of who a surgeon was, and was so impressed. Like, I couldn't imagine myself developing that skill set. But I do remember one night I was on call with a surgeon oncologist. I'm not going to mention her name, but she was an excellent, experienced surgeon. And we were dealing with a really difficult situation. The patient had a massive hernia that was incarcerated. It means it was blocked, and we couldn't reduce it, and there was risk of dead bowel. And it was a complex, long operation. And while we're in there, the patient, a woman, had a large ovarian tumor. It was probably benign in nature, but it was clearly abnormal. And I remember the surgeon saying, I'm going to take this out. This massive tumor I'm going to take out. And I thought to myself, well, aren't you going to call gynecology for this? I turned to the surgeon and said that. And she says to me, no, I'm a general surgeon. This is clearly abnormal. I'm just going to take it out. And I was taken back a little bit by that. But what she was really saying was, in my job as a general surgeon, I have competency in the abdomen. I know what my limits are. I know what I can confidently do and what I confidently or need help with if I in a scenario that I encounter. And so she confidently took out this ovary. And so I was impressed. I was impressed by that degree of confidence in the operating room. And that was something that I knew I wanted. I want to have that same sense of certainty in my own field, that confidence that I knew that I was doing the right thing in those moments, and the skills to actually do it, the skills to help and take care of that patient. And so that was my first sort of moment where I thought, man, I really want to be a general surgeon. Now, my path took a little different course. Even at that time, I'd actually joined the military and was on the path to do family medicine, because in Canada, doctors in the military will start their career as primary care doctors, family doctors. They do residency training and will work in that role for a few years. And then if they're performing well, then you can get selected to become a specialist. And so I knew I was going to start with family medicine, and maybe I was going to do anesthesia or something like that. Well, and I actually had applied to anesthesia through this program at least once before I ended up becoming a surgeon. And when I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, I had multiple experiences working with the surgeons that taught me, hey, this is truly what I want to do with my life. I really, really felt that, yes, this type of role in the operating room is what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in the operating room. I loved the idea of helping patients in surgery, whether it was anesthesia or as a surgeon was the question. And I remember when I was in Afghanistan, we were dealing with a young soldier that was involved in a horrible IED blast. And he came in, the trauma teams were taking care of him, and he was about to get whisked off to surgery. Now, the surgical team that was taking him was a set of, relatively young surgeons, as many are that deployed to Afghanistan. But the senior surgeon was an incredible person. He'd had 4 or 5 deployments before. He was an American naval surgeon and was just this incredibly balanced and grounded guy. And I remember he took a moment right before the patient went into the operating room, even though he wasn't doing the surgery himself. And I remember him saying to the patient, you're going to be okay. I've seen a lot worse, so I know you're going to be okay. The surgeon took that time to connect with the patient, knowing what he needed, but also with his experience could confidently say that yes, this patient was going to be okay. I remember wanting to be that kind of surgeon, not just someone who does an operation technically well and moves on to the next thing, but someone who's willing to connect with their patients. I now know as a staff surgeon, a consultant, it's not always easy to have those moments to connect with the patient. But when I can, I appreciate it. And the patients really do appreciate having that relationship with their surgeon. They really appreciate knowing their surgeon, trusting the surgeon, and in a lot of ways, the opportunity to even say thanks to the surgeon. And I appreciate that. So those are 2 stories that really inspired me to become a general surgeon and ultimately a trauma surgeon. Thanks for watching.